All right. Yeah.
Okay, we'll call to order this meeting of Park City Board of Education today, February 14th at 3:01 p.m. Can we rise for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Right, first order is the consent agenda. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the regular session minutes of January 17th, account payable registers of January 5th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 18th, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. Travel requests, land trust revisions, Park City parking lot lease agreement, course requests, personnel information, and January revenues.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
second.
Seconded by Nick. Do we have any questions or discussion on any of these items? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as proposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll start with employee reports.
Hey, everybody. It's probably pretty short today. Just want to give an update on the kind of ripple effect from that late start from several weeks ago. That turned into a remote day or a loss of school day from power outage. So originally March 17th was a planned professional development day for the whole district. However, due to the loss of power that day has been converted, no pun intended, to an in-person regular student day. As a result, we lost 8 hours of productive development time, so we have to make those up somehow. Those hours are distinct from normal paid days, so when we make them up, we can't just like fit them into the schedule. So PCA and Dr. Lee, Dr. Sorensen worked to determine kind of a flexible option for making up those hours. And we appreciate the work of the district and the input from one of our members in determining some solutions. So the current plan, we just chatted about this last time. Current plan is June 5th, that Monday after school has been out, will be the scheduled makeup day for that PD that we lost in March. However, there's also the issue there where a lot of teachers already planned trips and other responsibilities and such ahead of time. So as a result, that date doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So as a solution, I think we're looking at the option to have teachers kind of track their 8 hours, similar to what we did to 0.6 hours from the state this year. And that would allow folks to make up that PD time in a way that was flexible. And then teachers could be there that June 5th day, could be there that June 5th day. We're still chatting about that in more details in this option we sent out to teachers soon. But I really appreciate the district and other PCA members for kind of helping us figure this out. PCA continues to monitor the state legislature and educational bills coming out in the current section. Because many of them may impact our teachers. We're considering support for other education associations down valleys like Salt Lake and others at a possible rally next week to make statements about some of these bills. That's still kind of a work in progress. We'll see. Obviously, we're out of school for February break, but we had a similar rally last year and supported those education associations and kind of left our voice there. We'll let you all know if we decide to do that in case anyone wants to join us. We're kind of a pro public education rally and supporting teachers. And then lastly, our compensation team is going to be trained at the district fairly soon on interest-based bargaining as we prepare to negotiate a new compensation agreement. We're just kind of waiting for the legislative session to end, so we know what the money looks like and that sort of thing. We'll get some more updates on that as we get closer to March.
Great.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, go for it.
So as most of you know, I'm Cindy. I'm here to represent the EIG group. And I'm just going to read my little speech here. It's good to see you all again. It's great to see you again this month and report for ERG. A date has been set for the IB training, and we are looking forward to the process and moving forward with negotiations. Our negotiations team has met, and we have reviewed the survey that was sent out. We have been able to identify a few priorities for members and look forward to sharing the information once we sit down to negotiation. Some of our immediate concerns are the ability to attract and retain classified employees. Most of these concerns stem from not being competitive with salaries for classified staff, not offering full-time benefit position, and the disparity between the classified and the licensed salary schedules. Understanding our positions don't require licensing, but these positions are still as valuable to the makeup of the educational team. Not having enough classified staff is a drain on the licensed staff. The surrounding districts have a larger amount of classified staff in proportion to their licensed staff. EIG is hoping to present that information when we begin the negotiation process. I want to thank Dr. Gilday and Dr. Sorensen again for our monthly meetings with PCSD. These have been very beneficial to get a sense of what our classified employees' concerns are. We look forward to coming together with PCSD and reach a consensus on negotiation items that will benefit all classified staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so actually, Todd, can you come up and kind of give us an update? It's in relation to what we just heard around staffing, et cetera, for your division.
Yeah, I think the two of them covered it for me. No, just a little brief introduction about the after-school program. So we currently have 241 students participating in our before and after-school programs. As all of you know, the need for before and after-school programs for our families is strong and will just continue to grow each and every year. Our goal is to meet the needs of every student in the district by providing a high-quality program, running with a safe, healthy, and enriching environment. Our biggest challenge at the moment is one that is being felt across the nation as well as here. We currently have 13 open after-school positions. That includes coordinators, instructional aides, and assistants. Due to this shortage in staffing, we're having to enroll fewer and fewer students. We also want to thank Dr. Gilday and the district administration for working with us to try to come up with some creative solutions to help mitigate the challenges. Together, we've been able to combine positions throughout the district for more hours for current staff, looking to increase weekly hours. We've hired high school students. We currently have three at Colon and one at Trailside. We're excited to work with EMS Solutions. We feel the job will be positive and productive. We look forward to working with all employee groups, cabinet to ensure the best possible outcome for all employees of the district. So that's what we are.
What do you think actually, sorry. Does anyone have any questions for Todd? I mean, it's a pretty big gap in terms of our demand versus for employees versus what we have. What you guys look for, if you have any questions?
I was glad that you did mention high school students. That was kind of the first thing that happened. There's a potential resource for that. And it would be honest, especially if they're interested in education and any of that they're talking about.
It works well and
Or
it
capture.
works well with phone because they can
Right,
go
right.
between their devices. Yeah, and we're working with, Latinos in Action, Bright Futures, reaching out to all those groups. Yeah,
What's the how many kids are on the wait list right now?
currently we have about 88. We're going to start our spring registration April 7th. So we're just going to have to probably reduce what we open up.
What do you think the gap is financially between what we're offering and what we need to offer so that we can actually fill positions?
I hate to throw out a number, but I think we all know what the current market value is, what's coming up there to get to a competitive point where we're bringing people in. It's tough hours, right? It's 3 to 6, it's prime time, 12:30 to 6, Monday or on Fridays, early out days. So Yeah, but like I said, the district's doing everything they can. We're working with HR and Dr. Day cabinet to try to create positions. We're working with SPED. We have some 20-hour SPED positions, 20-hour after-school programs. Hopefully the tables will start turning, but. we'll see.
So what do we? How many employees are there total for after school?
So at each school, I like 3 world was perfect, 3 coordinators and 3 aides. So you have a coordinator and an aide with each group of students.
That's 24. So 24 employees is full employment and we're at 11. And what's the gap? And so what are we paying right now?
So the instructional aides start between around 15 to 18. Our coordinators are partially benefited up to 28 hours, which is huge. So it's 0.70 FTE, and they're paid between 18 and 22.
And the bump needs to be what, $5 an hour across the board, you think?
It would need to be substantial to bring in.
More than 5 or what do you?
I think we need to be around that, like Meredith mentioned, I think, $20 an hour would be a starting point for instructional aides.
I think we have to think about the whole value proposition, right? I mean, clearly we're not, a lot of people looking for full-time work, right? We're not talking about full-time jobs here, we're talking about jobs that are effectively seasonal. I mean, money is obviously a concern, but this is something that's felt across the whole district. And, something we just need to continue focusing on it, talking about. I mean, we hear it every time, right? We hear it in operations, we hear it in after school programs, we hear it. It's a tough situation. It's not just the district that faces it. I come out of a business that recruits seasonally, and it's a very difficult thing to do. You have to think about the whole value proposition, but pay is a key component of it.
But I'm hoping between the job study as well, if they take their market comparison, the job study and, the process and the negotiations that we talk about, we need to affect all employees, right? And bring it up for everybody.
Agreed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, and this is why we've accelerated the negotiations and asking the questions and let that just strip it down. What does that look like? I think the job study has to happen. Market study. We still have housing issues with a lot of other issues here in Park City that are really, really relevant to this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess where I'm at is, I would say that that's a crisis level point. If we have 24 positions and 13 of them are empty, then we're paying the wrong wage for that job. So, I mean, it depends on how we look at it. I mean, I would look at it through a lens of equity, which is what we're saying is that working families don't have anywhere for their kids to go after school, right?
Well, it just means this program, because there are other programs, so it just depends which, if this is a preferred program, because we will wait list, right, that means we'd like to grow this program. But we're not the only thing, which is good news, right, there are other after school opportunities, it's just this one is really convenient for parents of elementary and middle age kids, because they're here already. Right, to have to pick them up and take them to another campsite.
And frankly, it's cost effective.
And it is cost effective.
So, right, so I mean, I guess the question is why wouldn't we then, I mean, I guess what's the cost, right? And why wouldn't we look at adding that, paying a fair wage so that we can actually have somewhere safe for the kids to be after school?
Keep in mind, I like to have a balanced program. So we have the Ed Foundation, who's very gracious. We have tuition, and then we have the district also, right? So our funding it comes in a little bit different than other people's funding. And currently we do have the funding because we only have 13 positions for the entire school.
Do we have a sense if there's more desire from high school students too?
We have really treated the high school pretty hard. To try to reach out and for high school students, that 3 to 6 time.
That's
Right.
very much.
Whether they're in sports or.
Plus it's economics, right? Like if you can go make $20.
Oh, I agree.
Get tips at Starbucks.
You'll go do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would think we're going to be looking more at people who want to go into careers that, that experience is beneficial as opposed to purely.
And that's one of our huge selling points that we use, we're getting some people that quit their tech jobs and they want to get a feel for education and see what it's like and see what's possible and how we wrap into day school. We have them work with the teachers and the administration, and yeah, we've had some roll all the way into teaching.
It's
So
been a nice grow your own kind of program as well, so that's another avenue to maybe explore. Is making it an official grow your own kind of program.
Are we even getting applications?
Trickling.
Yeah.
We have the best in all of our support staff roles, it's word of mouth. Our best recruiting is always word of mouth. It's always someone talking to a student, a friend, a neighbor, a recent retiree, someone who's.
That's what I say, it's like, how hard we question that.
It works well. It worked well for, student, they're college students. We reach out to the universities. They can do some classes in the morning. They can have another job in the morning. They can go skiing. And for a lot of people, it is good hours. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to do a quick calculation here, so. If we have 100, so we have 24 employees. If we keeping it simple and not counting payroll tax and things like the benefits, which would be separate, but if we have 24 employees that each make $5 more an hour. Times 20 hours a week, for each of them, right? It's $2,400 a week. There's 180 days, which is 36 weeks. So $86,000 to have each of those people make $5 more an hour. And I mean, it's part of the overall study, right? But I guess my question to my fellow board members would be, what do we think about authorizing the administration to go out and raise those positions, given where we are? I mean,
And a pilot.
I mean, I'm certainly not denying the cost, but I think we have to find a way of building that into the budget. But I mean, I think we have to find a way.
I think what we're gonna see at the job study, and I think we're gonna see during negotiations with all these groups, is that the cost of our employees is gonna go up substantially this year. And it should, because inflation is high, and it also should because we're competing with jobs that have passed us pocket. And to me, I think it would be, as Dr. Gilday said, a good pilot to say, okay, in the second half of the year, if we pay $5 an hour more, does that make a dent, or are we still in the same place? And then we have a real problem.
Yeah,
Right? If it fails, we have a really big issue.
yeah, because we have seen some areas where we increased and we didn't necessarily get the kind of result we wanted, right?
Right.
So that makes in the past, right, Dr. Yeah, didn't we do that? Where we increased in some areas.
We
and
have
it
done
didn't-
that.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a guarantee, but we might as well try. I would be,
The only thing that I might say in a pilot is a wonderful thing. We have critical staff shortages in special ed. We have critical staff shortages in transportation.
yeah,
And
so 3 departments.
when one employee group gets. in a
Yeah,
pilot
yeah,
and
yeah.
there's going to be some morale and tension. And I'm just sharing that for you to consider as a whole.
How many employees is it?
Between those 3 groups.
No. Sorry, I'm saying, how many people are we short on those groups
I would think probably about 35.
total?
And
So
again, I'm just a rough estimate.
3 times, so I mean, you're looking over 200,000. Raise
$240,000,
everything.
$250,000.
To raise everything.
Yeah.
Well, to raise those 3 areas.
Those 3 areas.
Assuming we're current employees. That's just bringing new.
Why is that?
If they're not, if I'm gonna pay $10.
No, I understand that, but we're negotiating with everybody, right? I mean,
Right.
my view is, it's like, if there's a higher salary in a crisis position, it has to be, right? right? There's certain jobs that are gonna be more desirable or less desirable, right? Driving a school bus around in a blizzard that's a tough job, right? That's a job that should. Like, I think the way we've looked at our jobs and our positions is flawed, right? We can't put everything on par and say that they're all the same, right? When we have certain positions that are always short-staffed.
Right, I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm saying an after-school coordinator and an after-school coordinator. You can't bring a new one in and pay them $25 and keep your current employee.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, so in total, there's more than
You've got to
30.
adjust, yeah, you've got to
It's
see.
9%.
Yeah. Did transportation, did we try this with transportation?
We
Was
tripled
that,
the RE.
we tripled the, oh, okay, yeah, but not the, we didn't increase the.
So there's it's what is it, rural housing transfer. It's a stipend, so it's outside of the salary, but it's outside of salary benefits, it's a stipend.
Like is that?
We just a couple of months ago approved a small tax increase, right, to raise wages. That was the justification for doing that. How much money did we get from that?
No, we
We
didn't
didn't
increase our
do
taxes,
that.
we kept the rate the same.
We did.
Yeah, the value of the homes went up considerably, so people's tax bills increased,
Yeah.
but we didn't raise the rate.
So you went through it maintaining.
We maintained, we didn't cut the rate. We maintained the same.
Do we not have a truth in taxation?
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
And that was because of the rate.
So that was to maintain the rate and
Yeah.
offset it with the certified tax increase, driving everything down.
Okay.
Most districts went through a 34% increase in their assessed valuation last year, 33%. And so really drove down the certified tax rate across the state. And so several districts tried to maintain that same level. One place, probably the biggest area of tax was probably in capital. 1.9 million was supposed to help the construction along the way. For projects there, but otherwise it was pretty much held close to the same.
Okay.
Yes, the
There's
levy
no
for
additional revenue.
the levy for M and O for that covers employees didn't go up on a percentage basis. And obviously, that's going to be a big consideration in negotiations because it will have to go up, assuming that property values don't increase massively again, but I would imagine that would be part of our conversation. But we didn't raise it last time around. We thought we anticipated having to raise it. That's
Yeah.
probably what you're remembering is.
Yeah.
So when we did the last salary negotiation 2 or 3 years ago, we, as a board, decided we were happy to raise the rate in, last summer in August when it came around. And it was worth it for us to give higher wages. But we didn't end up having to do that in the end because we got bailed out by the property assessment. Essentially.
And that has actually happened several times where we think we're going to need to raise it and ultimately we don't. So sometimes we do a truth in taxation just to be transparent, do one more wrap around, where are we now? The way the timing comes in from the county, sometimes it's at the very last minute. So it happened several times where either a tip comes off.
It's always good to do this, right? To talk about the budget and what our tax rates are and explain that so that people understand.
Yeah, I was just interested in what potential additional revenue there is.
You're not at your.
So right now, we're about equal. If you raise it 1 increment, we generate about $2.7 million.
Yeah, we have room to raise.
Yeah.
We have a lot of room actually, but that's for another time. I mean, that's a bigger conversation.
But this is really good timing, because this is the time that we're doing the salary study, we're in the midst of it, we've launched it. We're in the beginning of budget development, so as you hear the things come in, this is just providing you some context. So when the board is hearing, this is the support we need, this is how we're reconfiguring this is our proposal, you now have some additional context from the field as to why some of those things are coming to you for consideration, so it won't seem so random.
So to your point, you're trying to say what can we do right now?
Yeah, I think so for 24 employees. Yeah, so for 24 employees, raise $5 an hour. So for that section of our employees, it's 86,000 roughly. And then, I mean, I don't
We
know,
added the other two
if
sections.
we add, how many total employees are there in sped and for pairs for sped and for transportation?
I would need to get that number for you. I wouldn't want to.
Is it more or less than 30 each? Transportation by 30, right? What about transportation? That's 30, right? So that's similar. So that's 160,000 and then whatever sped is. Right?
I wonder if we should get some specifics in those numbers.
We should.
You get those,
Sure.
gather those for us.
Yeah. I
And
think it's
increase the $5 an hour
there's-
on all.
if we Raise through the end of the year, what that's gonna cost.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we have,
I would just say, I mean, again, we have, the pay is incredibly quick, but we obviously we're gonna have to think about, like you said, we charges for not seeing the results that we want, so pay is a component. But there's a whole value proposition for people to actually sell the models roles that we really have to get right as well.
Some of it is beyond the district. We don't consider them like city limits.
Yeah.
so we have so the next meeting is when March 10th, we will close.
March 13th, Monday, the 13th, I believe it is, 1 hour.
That's, no, the Tuesday that we're in the close.
Oh, Tuesday,
Okay, Tuesday.
and then
And then
14th.
11. And then we have the board meeting.
I mean, I would love to see the numbers and then,
Yeah,
you know, maybe we have a quick meeting to discuss that and what the costs are in between these two meetings, sometime after next week, like after ski break, right?
yeah,
And we can, it's at least worth having a conversation, seeing what the numbers are, and then we can make a decision if we wanna.
yeah, absolutely.
Just so we can calculate correctly, would you want to put a start date, like is it April 1st, is it retroactive?
Oh.
To February, April, we just need to know the start date so we can calculate
The sped is 30.
the increase.
Thank you.
Spend 35.
Yeah.
So we know roughly what it is.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, it's gonna be between $250,000 and $300,000. Right, so if we have 35,
Let's.
well, we have the,
Our date.
well, we have the kind of
Up below.
the information now, like it's on an annual basis.
It's up to that, right? Assuming
It's
we
up
get to full employment.
That would be on an annual
Yeah.
basis, right? So today is, if we started, if we started salary with, let's call it March 15th, in a month from now, right? And we were able to get full employment. We have what? 3 months, so yes, roughly $80,000.
So Dr. Sorensen, maybe March 15th or March 1st, maybe do a couple.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but we, I mean, it's gonna be up to $80,000, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which I really don't know, so this
Mhm.
not. Would J1 is potentially be an option, people who are here on their work visa, who might be winding up their work with the resorts or at another place, as we kind of go into, we're talking about.
Well, certainly, it's that for everyone.
I mean, I would say that's maybe the longest term solution, but if we could.
Well, not for, it wouldn't work for sped or for.
Right, but I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about that after school.
Yeah.
That's where my head is. No, I don't, I mean, yeah.
Do they have days off, but we could potentially, contribute.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe if some,
the.
I mean, I've just been hearing murmurings that sometimes they're looking for, additional work. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's a place that's blocking him to. As much work, or I'm,
Well, the results certainly cut them loose,
Yeah,
anytime.
right, and maybe if there's,
Very much on.
yeah, I know.
Well, I think, I mean, like, I think the estimate is roughly that, right? So the question is,
People here.
do we, if I pose it that way, like, if we said it's gonna be between $80,000 and $100,000 between now and the end of the year to pilot, giving each of those groups $5 extra and seeing where we go. Is that something we want to do?
I think it's worth it to try.
Well, I mean, in theory, yes, again, it comes back to where we find them, yes.
Well, we find it. Funded from, so all those positions are budgeted.
Right.
Right, so every single one of those we have in this year's fiscal budget, we just haven't filled it, right, so we have a surplus
Yeah.
from those jobs that get
Yeah.
filled. So it's not new money.
We already.
Yeah, yeah.
It's already. Yeah.
So we would make it work, but basically what would it be is the board would give us direction to have that happen. And then we would move forward and then a final budget adoption. That'll happen in June for the current fiscal year. Would be taken care of.
I mean, I would say yes.
And do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dr. Sorensen said about making sure it's equitable so that we're looking at it, holistically and not upsetting anyone who's not, considered in this. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yes.
Okay, so I think let's go ahead and try that and keep us up, maybe next meeting in March, on if there's any progress, but we can start it. May as well try.
That for longer than you normally do.
No, I'm good. I just-
Now you just have to hire people. That's the easy part of that.
Dr.
But-
Sorensen sitting back there like, they're doing everything.
All right, Mr. Tanner.
Dr. Gildu, like PCBO, to jump in ahead.
Okay.
Thanks. PCBO, our architect for the elementary schools, is going to give a presentation similar to the MHD that we did last month. Relating the schools back to master facility plan and showing you what plans are for the schools. And now we are here, get it away.
Perfect. Hello, presentation. That's excellent. All right, so based on the presentation that you got last month, our understanding is that you have a pretty good sense of the master plan and sort of how it was laid out. So our goal today is just to share with you the progress on the elementary schools from the master plan. We'll keep it pretty quick, brief. If you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt us and we'll jump in there. So next slide. So this is just a reminder of where those master plans were. I don't know if we can move that. Just where those spaces are, where the hollow images. Oh, Brianna is coming down. Oh, right here. Over here. Sorry, I was thinking you're up there. I wasn't looking at perfect. So when we started the project, we had prioritized the expansions on Jeremy Ranch and Poland with the goal of providing community services, wraparound services, and the programs for those two schools. And so that was sort of our first phase of work, and then our second phase of work is Harley's Park and the school. And so I'm sure you guys are aware that Jeremy's Ranch and Poland are under construction right now. This is just a quick reminder of what the master plan had, which is pretty similar to where we ended up with our design. We did some maneuvering to fit onto the site and to make sure we could fit within the budget. We did some consolidation and flexible use of spaces. And so the next couple of slides sort of show how that has evolved over time. So you can see in these bubble diagrams, the sort of periwinkle and green and yellow are the existing schools, and the darker blue, deeper yellows and reds are the expansion. And so Jeremy's Ranch, we're up on the north end of the school, and Poland over on the east end of the school in a way that we feel really ties nicely with the existing programs and allows for a nice cohesive function, but also unique entryways both for the pre-K program and for the community services and wraparound services for both of those schools. And then we slowly get into a little bit more detail. So you can see that the floor plans, they have the exact same program. They're just kind of mirrored and mirrored to fit the site and the site constraints for each of those schools. And then Bri, I'll let you jump in on the more details.
You guys are probably somewhat familiar with this already, but so let's look at Jeremy Ranch on the left here. So that sort of main entrance into the pre-K and the wraparound service area, community service areas on the north there on the left, you kind of see that wedge. And so we've got community ed spaces there on the left, office spaces and screening spaces in sort of that reddish color on the left there. And then there's a little special ed space, a little blue in between the red and the green color, the gold color. And then the larger space is a multi-purpose space. So it can double as many things, as there's anything, it could be after school, it could be gym for the littles. You name it, for community ed, go in there as well. The blue periwinkle is what you called it, those are our classrooms, so we have 2 3-year-old rooms and then the 4 4-year-old rooms. And the 4-year-old rooms, we have some collaboration space in between, so you kind of see that hallway where it's a little bit larger, so those teachers could cross teach if they want to, students can go out into that middle area. Which is really nice, there's a lot of transparency in the classrooms, which is lovely, we've got good more south light into both of the schools, into the classrooms as well. And then there's a secondary entrance on the right hand side for parking and drop off for the kids. And the pool is very similar, it's very similar.
So the next slide is just a blow up of that, showing sort of furniture layout, a little bit more detail about where the restrooms, storage areas, some of the anticipated uses. You can see the community education spaces, some of that detail emerging. We also have some gender neutral restrooms and a lot of, again, really flexible space to serve the needs of the district.
So these are the 2 site plans, Jeremy, let's see.
The existing is.
I was like, wait, where's the full So Jeremy, existing's on the left and then on the right, you can see the new additions in that darker yellow at the top there. The purple is showing we've got some play areas. So there's some new parking along over there, and then we've got a new drop off on the right hand side to get into the pre-K for parents to drop off there, as well as access to your receiving for the existing school. Here's a so again, existing on the left. On the right is the new CBC, although it's kind of hard to read there, I apologize, but on the right is that little darker area, that's the addition we're talking about. And then their play area. Addition.
And a new bus drop off on the BC.
Yeah, so that parking for sort of reconfigured, so the buses between treasure and addition are shared situation. And there's some randoms, I see you have them on your wall here, which is great. Both look very similar, so something I'm considering.
And again, the goal here was to tie into the existing schools as best as possible, recognizing you can never quite match exactly, and so working through how to make them complementary for extensions.
We do some interior rendering, so this is that collaboration space. Is
that a big skylight in the middle?
The skylights, that's actually just a light right there. So here's an update on schedule. Again, it's written set runner construction right now. We're looking at adjourning late spring, early summer, being completed next year. Right, so here's Phillips Park. So we've got this is the master plan on the left here. Originally, we were planning on just adding onto parties with the new gym and the early learning. As we've had conversations with the team, it's been determined that it would be best to have that early learning as the addition to the north there, and then model your existing cafeteria gym spaces existing pre-K. So you can kind of see on the right where the yellow is, that's your existing, well, that will be your cafeteria, dedicated cafeteria space. And then the gym space, we're going to expand a little bit so that you can fit more people in the teaching classroom.
So if you go to the next slide, I think we actually blow those up for you, so we're supposed to see them.
That's a lot better.
Yeah.
So on the left is that remodel space, and so there's the gym there. So you can see it kind of expands now into what's your music room is what you're using for right now. So that's being moved down into one of the food rooms as well as a space for community liaison. And this is the site. Left again is existing. On the right, you kind of see that darker yellow block. That's the addition. We'll be reworking your receiving area and your parking lot back there. We're trying to, keep that as consolidated as possible, so we're not disturbing your existing play area. In between the parking, you kind of see that little fun wedge shape there. That'll be the play area for the pre-K. It's just leftover space for you, so it's a little bit larger than some others. And here's what that might look like. Now there is some grade difference here. This is schematic, so it's all flat, but in reality that will kind of slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, and just a note, because these two were sort of scheduled to be phase two, we're still in this sort of schematic design phase for these ones. So you're not going to see quite as much detail in our presentation as you did on the other two.
Trail side. So this one, what we're working on Harley's right now, is sort of trail side, somewhat on hold. We've gone through some schematic design on it, so this is much like what you've seen before. So the left is the master plan, and on the right, again, we've kind of taken what we learned from the others and recreated that early learning floor plan and consolidated it. So that's what you're seeing right inside there now. So that'll be 6 classrooms and some space for making local support. As needed. And here's the site, left is existing, on the right, and you see off to the right hand side is that hydro wheel where the addition is slated to go. Updating schedule wise, right now, we're trying to move the schedule up for Harley somewhat. Right now, they're both scheduled to open June 2025. We're gonna try to push that deadline up a little bit for Harley's part.
That's it.
That's it.
Rolling.
That's great. Your team has done such a nice job of listening to all of the schools in the field, from the preschool teachers to the site building leaders, to the nurses, to the counselors, to everybody that's provided in. But thank you for being so inclusive with everybody and for ensuring your voices have been heard in the designs. I know Kathy has really appreciated some of these school that is working with you guys, so it's been a good process so far. Looking forward to the rest of it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It's been wonderful working with you guys as well. So thank you for the opportunity. And we're excited.
Yeah,
Any questions?
thanks.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yep, all right. Good afternoon. This is the operations update for the 14th of February, 23. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. COVID is still on our radar. We're still watching it closely. All of our back shop mitigations are still in place, and we're ready to go with plenty of PPE testing in the event that we have an issue. From a buildings and grounds perspective, Todd Hans and his team did a great job with snow removal. You may have noticed a bunch of payloaders and dump trucks were in the parking lots the last couple of weeks as they cleared off additional spots and removed vision hazards at the mouths, 9 feet of entryways to our lots. We are getting dump truck removal of soil from Poland that started yesterday and should be completed by the end of next week. The majority of that will be happening kind of around the clock next week, where the truckloads leaving the Poland side of hauling that soil in. I'm pleased to report that the operations for Sundance went very smooth this year. Very few hiccups. Ski parking is active at Jeremy. We have the Woodward employees parking there. At the high school, we got Parks and Mountain Resort. And at Treasure Mountain, we have Deer Valley. Most of the minor issues have been worked out. The FY24 capital budget requests will be finalized this week, working on that. And the district is working with the Sustainability Action Committee, the SAC they call it. A bunch of students, a bunch of administrators get together to try to come up with ideas on sustainability. And they're concentrating on areas of composting, recycling, energy conservation, eco awareness, bike racks, and alternative transportation options. So that's going to be going on next month. Transportation, Rich Eddington and his group are doing a great job. Again, heavy snowfalls and doing a great job getting our people moved. Staffing continues to be a challenge, as we just spoke about, with most of the office staff and mechanics filling in regularly to support our regular routes. We possibly have one driver returning left who might be coming back, and another one who's expressed interest. We'll hopefully try to keep that going. The website and Face are getting together to put together an advertising plan that's appealing to some of the altruistic desires of some of our folks who may not need money but want to give back to the school district. So that's underway now too. Routes are being studied again for consolidation in light of staffing shortfalls. And we just recently purchased an add-on module for Zonar, which will allow parents to keep track of their students' bus on the road. Child nutrition services is playing along very well. John does a great job with his staff. We are short of one member at Jeremy still with no applicants, and John and Brooke are filling in that absence.
John reports that the supply chain has been relatively stable for the early part of the year. And they recently were subjected to a state administrative review, and the on-site portion went very well. Specialists were here for 3 days. They were very complimentary of the team's service at Harley High School, notably, and Lucy and Brooke for attention to detail and media production. Human resources were entering into collective bargaining as it's season, so get ready for that. Our interest-based bargaining training day is scheduled on the 10th of March from 9:30 to 3:30. The 15th and 16th of February, we have educator recruitment fairs at 2 universities. We'll have both HR and the principals this year talk to prospective candidates. The job study is progressing well. EMS is meeting with our administrators this week and employee groups to do their work to try to benchmark our salaries. Special services contract is created for admin echo support for the remainder of the year with the departure of the director. This part is just designed to do the admin functions associated with running the echo center. Security, we've got a new SRO for the high school, the Kearns campus. Art Fox also his name. He's been very, very well received by staff so far. Our instant notification system agents is the initial installation is complete. And we're still in the process of bringing that on board. Park City School District held an active shooter training in law enforcement response on the 3rd of February. We're adding additional ballistic film will be installed at vulnerable internal sites throughout the district. And the district is coordinating an active shooter scenario at the Park City Police Department to occur next week on the 20th of February, with staff being encouraged to volunteer or to participate on a volunteer basis. And Park City Police Department has been providing afternoon traffic control support in 224, helping their buses getting out of the high school. And that's all I have for the operations update. Unless you have questions.
Do we have any plans on getting a contract with Deer Valley for our parking lots?
Yeah, we just voted on the 5-year today. Yeah, Park City Mountain Resort. Deer Valley, up until just recently, has talked about just using their lot as overflows. So it was on a case-by-case basis as they needed it. They would contact us to use the lot. Last year, they didn't use the lot at all. This year, I think they just used it one weekend. But just recently, they announced that they were going to use Treasure as a regular satellite spot for parking. And so we have a contract in place for that use. It's on a case-by-case basis, which is a blanket like Park City Mountains was. But it sounds like their case-by-case is going to be every day now for the rest of the year. So we have a 1-year contract in place to allow that to happen. And I'm in regular contact with Victoria.
Are the terms of that the same as the PCMO?
The finances are roughly the same. I use the Park City Mountain Resort, the high school as 1X, right? So that's $3,600 a day. Treasure has roughly half the spots available in the high school, so we're 0.5X. And the Jeremy lot is about 0.3X. So they're adjusted based upon the prorated number of spots available. They're all basically aligned with the school policy.
What's the projection for how much that's going to make us over the winter?
Park City Mountain, $125,000 to $150,000, depending on the season. And then obviously half of that for the remainder of the days. Merchant people here for trading on.
Great work on all this.
Yeah, thank you.
Money that goes back to the kids. That's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
The construction update, we really don't have anything new for you. All the projects are permitted, all of the project numbers. If you have any specific questions, we're happy to answer those. We've got JD with us here today from Mocha, who's going to jump in and answer questions for as well.
I know last month I asked about contingency and said if things within contingency. Do we have any sense of what scope we have for any potential issues there?
Well, the delays with permitting and the delays with winter conditions that cost us 6 months, and you saw that the projections for the timelines. We're still working out the dollars. The total amount is, will be within the total $129 million allocation for all the projects. It's just a matter of how we move things around and down to the buildings. So, yeah, there will be costs. We're confident it will be absorbed within the overall budget. We set like that.
No particular concern that we would, should something else happen somewhere, that actually we would go beyond the contingency we have taken.
You know, we do anticipate changeovers. Things pop up all the time. Those are not anticipated. We are confident that the major ones that have been covered with Jim and Poland at the great interest. So we don't anticipate, we anticipate some minor ones. We don't anticipate big changeovers there. So I think we're at a point where we're pretty solid in place on those 10 projects. The high school and ECHR are still emerging. We've been getting some good pricing back, some good value engineering work going on with Hogan. You know, we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to hit our numbers. And if not, you know, who knows, if 1 to 3% adjustment, but we're not even at that point. We're still a little bit within the 129.
All right, thank you.
That's my.
You want to do student council?
So we don't have a lot going on with student council right now. However, we are currently planning for the winter formal, which is coming up on March 11th. It is going to be held in Foxy High School's front gym from 7 to 9. And we also got some information that about Wish Week, which we typically do every year. This week or this year, it is going to be the first or the last week in March. And that's it for us.
Great, thank you.
And how is the software grant? Did that happen already?
Yeah.
PowerPoint, not too long.
I hope that was good.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Zach. You've been a great host at the student council meetings every month. We always enjoy them, and whether there's PowerPoint or whether it's just a table dialogue, we always appreciate connecting and hearing what students are up to. And you're kind of underselling yourself a bit because there's always a lot going on every time we're at the high school. We were just there today and saw all kinds of amazing classroom activities happening throughout the school. Everything from assisting our most severe students who need support all the way to, you know, the AE, computer science, right? Like all kinds of amazing things happening and great activities. You guys have done it really well. Awesome. So we are in February of 2023. I cannot believe it already. February 14th, hitting spring. We're heading up into ski break week. That's going to be amazing with all the snow. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody will enjoy that. Our collective work is always to ensure safety, achievement, and opportunities. The district office, we of course we exist to create the conditions for staff and student success. So that's the entire reason we have a district office, is to facilitate and support all of this work happening. As we move forward together, we always want to focus on recognitions. And if you were here for a few minutes before the board meeting, you see every month that we have specific accolades and things that we're celebrating. Tonight, I'll talk just very quickly about the Inspiring and Supporting All Students Equitably Committee. Some upcoming input opportunities we have for the public is the state board. I had an alarm for our 4 o'clock meeting. Here we go. 3 o'clock meeting today. So the state board survey, the climate survey that the state puts out every other year. So you will start hearing about that soon, soon after ski break week. We usually take that in March or so. It's not a very long survey, and it's really helpful when we get to see kind of year-over-year trends. And it has some questions on safety, security. It has questions for students and for parents and for staff. And then we get that data back and then we compare it across the state. We will have an upcoming input opportunity for the future use of Treasure Mountain site. While we will not likely make a decision on that until after all of our facility construction is completed, it's still a great dialogue to begin having to, you know, imagine either that land, if the school is to be demolished, or what that use might be. Also looking briefly at some legislative actions. It's been a really busy legislative season. It's definitely kept all of us on our toes. And then looking ahead a little bit at our school calendar, because of course that becomes a board decision. So we'll look at some of those things. Our mission, of course, we always want to keep front and foremost to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. And as we've been doing our school site visits, I'm hoping our new board members as well as existing board members, are able to see that with our site leaders. Every time you're in a school, we have amazing examples of this happening every day. From the caring concern our administrators are showing to our students, to our parent engagement and involvement, to the wonderful work of the education and support staff, and keeping schools and the after school program, of course, running smoothly. We work as a student-centered organization with a focus on the whole child. As I've explained, this is a national definition of whole child, where our students are safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. And when the board and the community makes decisions in alignment with these principles, we know we're on the right track. Board of Education, I wanted to make sure we recognized your community leadership today, because every single one of you has stretched and reached and participated in all kinds of things, whether it's in the liaison role to another community organization, whether it's our board training that we had new members together in December, and then again, all of us in January at the convening. February, we just had the weekend with president, vice president training. In March, we have regional meetings, and that will be a lot of the legislative decisions. We'll start hearing about those coming forward together as a regional area. Our school site visits, our departmental overviews that are starting will continue throughout March and April. The legal training that we had just yesterday and will continue again in March, and then presentations even to legislators. Wendy's done one, Meredith's already done one. So really every single board member has given time, talent, and just incredible amount of devotion to this community and to the school district. So every one of you, I hope you feel good about that, because that's, the price of your work, I guess, right? This is one slide once a year. That's a big, but thank you very much. That everybody's work is valued and appreciated. I did want to make sure we recognize our national board certified teachers. We have 3 teachers that have recertified, as well as brand newly certified teachers. These are teachers who take it upon themselves to go beyond what is typically required for licensure, and they move into kind of that master status, master recognition. So we will have 6 teachers recognized on February 27th at the legislature for this accomplishment. This number parallels districts the size of Granite and Alpine. So we have a huge, number of people.
What does it take to get national awards?
Oh my goodness, it is a lot, right? It's building a portfolio, it's taking assessments, it's really demonstrating the expertise in your field and how you are engaging and encouraging outcomes in students, and providing data that shows that your instruction is having desired outcome. It's
And how
really
much time does it take these educators to do that? On top of their
hours and hours and hours. So when we,
yeah,
it is 100 plus. That's very similar to the master board, or the master budget. Meritorious budget award always takes about 100 hours plus over the regular budget development. So yeah, really, it's worthy of
It's huge.
recognition and acknowledgement. So thank you for understanding that's a big commitment. So inspiring and supporting all students equitably this year, the equity committee had identified 2 major goals: to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. So again, keeping with the district's vision and mission, and then to create and maintain a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable school climate that promotes learning. We have 21 members on that committee. It has been meeting monthly throughout the school year. There is a policy development subcommittee that's meeting more frequently, and right now that particular committee and subcommittee shared with the large committee their policy draft, and I think Wendy's on this committee, so she probably knows we're on 3rd, 4th, 5th draft of this. We are going to use a new tool that we are partnering with Park City Education Foundation on the use of this tool. It's called Innovate K-12, and it's a way for people to provide comments, the kind of narrative comments, and then it looks AI kind of does a little qualitative analysis and tells you what themes are kind of emerging. So we have 3 questions that are linked to the policy, so that by the time the first draft comes to the board, you can see some of this feedback, you can see the different stakeholder groups that have provided some input. You'll all be able to provide input, and then hopefully we will be able to get that policy on the books. So that is, the members, it also does have reflective members of the community, so it is broader than just teachers. We have administrators, we have staff, we have board rep, we have community rep, and this feedback loop I think will be great. So it's another one of those opportunities to provide some inputs on an important topic. We've had an action plan all year, we've been updating it all year. So this community feedback is this month and next month. You'll see the first version of and it will still be in draft form, but in March, 20 days of public comments, we'll then have the approval in April. We have commissioned or in the process of commissioning an external equity assessment. That assessment is being funded by the Park City Education Foundation. We're very grateful for that support and assistance. That will be an external research and evidence-based assessment of different practices, everything from hiring and recruitment through retention activities, curriculum, all sorts of things. So we'll get a report back on that. That should be helpful as we make plans for the future. We have deployed the first of the state required modules, and all staff had from November 15th until January 31st to complete that first module. That was probably the longest module of all. There are 10 modules in total once they're all released. Only the first 2 have been released so far. We have our next meeting in May. That's when we start looking at our quarterly data. We look at different data points, and that will also help monitor our progress towards our equity goals. All right, we'll click through. Thanks. So the committee has made notable progress with the draft policy going into feedback loops. We've even had case studies of real scenarios from the district that we've worked through. We've had 2 different case studies that Carolyn has led quite expertly. Carolyn is on her way to completing her doctoral dissertation in an equity arena, and Jake Job actually just secured his doctorate. So he is now Dr. Job at the meeting. So we're very proud of him. He also had an equity theme for his study. Excellent. Go ahead. When things happen in the district, in any specific school that don't match expectations or our norms, the first thing that all of our staff do is we attend to the students. This is core. This is our main focus. This is primary to our work. And to put into place any restorative practices to be able to get beyond a negative situations. But there are also consequences. There are redirections, reteaching, parent contact, lunch or lunch detention, after school detention, in or out of school suspension. But the restorative practices are really the pieces that make the difference when you have a bias incident or name calling, those negative things that can lead to bullying. If you don't take the time for the restorative practice, the behavior continues. So it's the restorative practices focus that I'm really proud of our district, because we have so many people that have been trained and who do implement these. The staff collaborates around these problems. We have a multi-tiered system of support, as well as positive behavior interventions and supports at each of the schools. We work to reestablish norms. The middle school, for example, sent home a letter that said how they're going to be reteaching and reestablishing these norms and expectations for incidents that they notice. Some of these incidents are linked to kids seeing or hearing friendship groups or social media, direct result of trying to copycat something they've heard or seen. So we need to be attentive to all of that as well. We do consult experts within and outside our school walls. We look at other resources. We try to provide written descriptions so that people understand what's happening. And really, we need to support and connect, because that's the other antidote to hatred, right? Is the connection and knowing one another. Those are probably the most important things we can take the time to do. There are resources and supports. Our district is partnered with a nonprofit from Utah called the Cook Center for Human Connection. Their primary role is suicide prevention education. And they also have this parentguidance.org, which is a free portal that every parent, every community member could access. You do have to put in an email address to be able to have access, but they have over 300 little video clips from experts, global experts in certain topics where you can type in bullying. You know, my child is a victim or my child is a bully. And it will tell you the first steps that you can take as a parent, best practice that you can intervene, or my child has suicidal ideation, or my student, you know, my child may be using drugs. It gives you some great professional support and guidance as to what you can do as a parent, because sometimes you don't want to go to a class on bullying, right? You just want to be at home and be able to kind of check in. The organization also has telehealth available if parents are interested in that. Another really interesting approach is to look at animated clips from My Life is Worth Living. These are also freely available on YouTube. These were professionally created through the Cook Center for Human Connection. The Cook Center is based out of Springville? Is that the right name? Down south. Springville, Utah, and it's the family that is involved with doTERRA. They launched doTERRA. So it is their family organization, but this My Life is Worth Living was developed by Terry Thorin, who did the Rugrats in the 90s. So they are very professionally, millions and millions of dollars went into these videos. There are 6 different video series. They are 6 episode arcs on 6 different teenage scenarios. So they are definitely something that have a lot of like labels, you know, little warnings, sensitive topics, but how do you address a child who has attempted suicide, who has suicidal ideation, who has had a career-ending physical sports injury and has identity issues. And you can watch those first as the adult, then potentially as a family, because it models how we can support our youth as they're going through these really challenging episodes of their lives. We have local organizations that are phenomenal. Connect, Communities That Care. We also have resources through U.S. Department of Justice. Even links from Edutopia, Anti-Defamation League, and Connect Safely are all really helpful organizations that we reach out to when things don't go as planned. In the teaching and learning department, we did some school updates last month. So one department update this month is we are looking at measured progress outcome milestone targets. These are linked to things on our data and statistics dashboard, but they're also the things that we're looking at statewide. Attendance milestones, we always want 95% and above attendance. 3rd grade reading level, 8th grade math level, graduation rates, these sorts of things that we really want to have kind of displayed around so that we can keep a very visible eye on these targets as we keep working towards those as a system. Our secondary alignment committee has been amazing. They've been meeting regularly. They'll be presenting. Lindsay Huntsman will be presenting to Park City leadership on Friday. So that will be really fun. So the community, broader community, will get to hear kind of what that committee's been up to. And that really looks at the future of learning in Park City schools. So links. We're actually okay about this little bit of a delay in the construction, so it gives us more planning time. So we're actually all okay with this because it gives us that more methodical pathway. Our alignment towards career, college, and life readiness, as well as academic attainment and following the One Utah plan, are all part of what we talked about as cabinet as kind of our North Star. Having a portrait of a graduate that goes well beyond just your academic transcript. Demonstrates your kind of like a college resume or a work resume by the time you're done with school. That's something supported through the statewide education plan. And what this means is adjusting pace, choice, voice, and providing pathways for learners. This is kind of what that might look like. So you've seen this poster before because we've had one like this before, where we set the goal and the target, you know, where our EL learners are going to be, what our graduation week is going to be. So you'll start seeing this emerge through the teaching and learning teams as we propose these things. Lindsay Huntsman this month has actually this year, she's had some great accolades. She's helped an entire program review for our CTE program. She has done a great job in expanding our offerings in our career pathways and really looking at our high school catalog to make sure that there is always a pathway for kids as they're taking a course, what it might lead to in a career journey. We were able to talk today when we stopped in a class with a student who went to MTech and is on their way to be an electrician. Not even done with high school yet, like pretty amazing work that these pathways are providing for our kids. And our secondary realignment team is fairly large. We're really looking at 6, 8, 9, 12. We've got task forces, focus groups, and I think they're having a lot of fun designing this. The teachers will be teaching the other teachers about this on March 17th in the afternoon, on the Friday afternoon, since we're back in school. Culture and climate, always really important, and each month we see different things when we walk through the schools, whether we're in the district office and seeing a lunch meeting, sponsored with some fun activities for team building, whether we're at Treasure Mountain and we see the advisory theme of the month. We were at Trailside the other day and saw their really great post-it wall that the parents made. They left their child a note at the end of conferences to talk about how proud they were of them. So all these different things that recognize, one another, our students, our staff to staff, or our parents for our staff. Really appreciate it. Data and stats over to the left. I want you to know that we do have a data and stats tab that you do need to click twice, but it is there as an interactive website resource. And just to note, we are able to pull out certain data like serious incidents. How are we trending in these? How are from last year to this year? Are we keeping pace? Are things escalating? Are we having more classroom issues? So what are the interventions for that? That's how we try to problem solve, whether we're at the site level or the district level. And that's it. Unless you have questions.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Do you have any questions for Dr.
Do not.
All right, let's skip around a little bit. I know Anne has a school concert to go to. So let's go to decisions and then we'll go back to the 3-year calendar review and school fees. That's okay with us. Okay, so first up on decisions is the 23-24 calendar. I think we heard from Jake that the PCBA worked with you guys on that. Is that the latest?
Yeah, that June 5th would be the makeup day, but we're going to provide some flexibility. We're documenting anyway when people are doing out of hours work as part of the state program for additional hours. So we'll just do that in the same manner.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to adopt the 23-24 calendar. As is listed here on board docs.
I make a motion to adopt the calendars. It's here on board docs. Okay.
Do we have any discussion or questions? This hasn't changed since the last time we looked at it, with the exception of that PD day, right?
The June, it should only be the June.
And we just talked about that December break versus the January, December. Kind of a great answer on that, but.
Yeah, we haven't changed that.
That's still.
And in this calendar, the PD day isn't in there. But.
Yeah, no, sorry, that was really, I was talking 22, 23, not 23.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was talking 22, 23.
Sorry, can I-
About this.
On this calendar, we show that August 16th, because I remember on the last board meeting, we talked about moving that PD down. So we'll probably need to adjust that on this calendar if we're going to adopt what's posted.
Correct. So we do not need to, we don't need to carry it over.
We don't need that 16.
Gotcha.
Okay. Does someone make an amendment then to those? So we have them on record.
Make a motion to make an amendment.
Yeah.
I make a motion to make an amendment to the 23-24 calendar related to the August 16th date to remove the PD day on August 16th.
Okay, we have a second on that amendment. Okay. So let's start with the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And now any other
Discussion. maybe
Yeah.
a call for
Yeah.
discussion. So this is the calendar as Meredith was just, referring to, that the semester will not end then before winter break. So we've been really trying to do that for students, so that you can definitely chime in, we really felt it was, I know Principal Robbie's here too, but it's important to kind of have that break. We felt like when there's not the pressure of having like, so if the semester carries over, you're kind of feeling like you're looking at the projects, that we really want to tackle that break. So this would be 1 year where it doesn't work that way. Or the end of the semester would actually be January 16th, but we've also heard from some teachers, they think that sometimes it's less pressure to come back after break, do a review, make sure you're kind of set in the content and then move on. So it would be kind of, again, like a pilot, but it would be kind of the old way of doing things, rather than the way we've been doing things. The past few years, we've kept winter break. So what do you think, Zach, as a student point of view?
From the student point of view, having the break up semester 1 and semester 2 is definitely a valuable thing, but also I see why we have to go.
Balance for this year, just to make it not so outside.
What is it, one every 7 years or one every?
Yeah, that's what you're. If you start too early, you really cut summer short, that's the.
Yeah.
So if you just kind of try it, take notes, see what works and doesn't about it, because the next year it looks like. So,
One week in summer.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions on this? All right, all those in favor of passing the amended motion to adopt the 23-24 calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
That's passed. We'll go to the next decision item, which is the PCI MOU. I will accept a motion to approve the PCI MOU as is listed in board docs.
Make a motion to approve the PCI MOU.
Do we have any discussion on this, Ann? Or sorry, Nick?
No, I don't. I mean, they keep me as that we reached an agreement that both sides seem to be comfortable with.
I just want to make sure the attachment had a blank page in the middle. Is that inadvertent?
I think that's formatting. What's formatting over, right? It's page 3 of the
Yeah.
6th page.
I just, yeah, just formatting makes sense, yeah.
Just kind of degree. No, so then yes, the same, it wasn't an agreement, but. I mean, that's really just.
I want to just clarify, because I know there's so many narratives and this has been a real big process. This is a public facility, correct? We are managing, we're responsible to manage the public facility in the interest of the community, of our taxpayers and all of that. We have this MOU is an exception to those who can use this, which is any organization for the benefit of the public. Follows a different policy than what we're doing here as an MOU with the Park City Institute, correct?
Yep. It's an exception to our facilities usage policy.
Okay, so we manage lots of facilities, so, and that exception has been ongoing since the inception. Echoes, correct? And so I want to make sure we're clear about the great programs can be brought to this facility with or without the MOU with Park City Institute. Yeah, this is not indicative of that. So I just wanted to highlight that, and knowing that the narrative is that, and it doesn't say anything specifically about the MOU, but the narrative out there that there's something that if because we've had some ongoing discussion about this MOU, because there are changes, Because evolution of the ECHLs, evolution of this agreement with PCI is happening. That doesn't mean that we've ever attempted to end on any programming for the better of the community. In fact, it's a public facility, and our obligation is to manage it as a public facility, correct? And the taxpayer dollars. Okay,
Right, so the understanding is PCI is a self-supporting entity, it's a nonprofit. Park City is taxpayer entity, and it is a shared facility use. So the theater kids use it, Eckerd Hill Middle School uses it, a ballet company can use it, a church could rent it on a Sunday and do a program. You have lots of different organizations can use it, and we do have the different political parties can come in and do seminars. You know, there's all different uses of the space.
and they would operate under our facilities policy agreement, not under this MOU. Is an exception, they have a different, this would allow them to have different treatment.
Right, so the school facility rental agreement covers any rental. So if anybody is interested in using the ECHLs Theater, they would reach out to our purchasing agents and they would say, I'm interested in having a seminar on December 6th at the ECHLs Theater. And then they would go through the calendar, the first purchasing agent would go through the calendar and the scheduling and say that space is available or that space is not available. If the space is available, the entity that's interested would identify whether they're for-profit or nonprofit. They would fill out an application or a facility use saying that they would provide proof of insurance, the days and times they plan to be there, you know, all the standard things. And then that would go on the calendar, on the scheduling calendar. And then if they book that through us, then our staff at the ECHLs covers it. And the fee then covers their hourly rate.
Okay. So then the justification to continue this exception, and again, this isn't to undermining the programming or anything related to PCI, is because there's been this history of a relationship and that the exception still of an MOU. I'm just trying to, from my perspective coming in, how if we're representing the public and our job is to make sure we are managing a public use facility for the interest of all, not any particular, this still fits that expectation of us as stewards of this public use facility.
I think it, and Mike can probably speak to this better since he has worked with the organization the most. Mike, did you want to come up?
Yeah,
through
I
any of
think
this?
what justifies the agreement as a carve-out is the frequency of programming that's community, the complexity of the programming. And Park City Institute, by their needs of scheduling, requires longer lead times than other agencies do. They're coordinating now for events that are going to happen over a year from now. And so that's a different animal. And so to be fair to the school district, to be fair to Park City Institute, to allow for that programming flexibility, we think this MOU is a nice compromise that meets both parties and needs recognizes the legacy that PCI has.
Thanks.
Yeah, Meredith.
Just under the agreement from the district side, talks about scheduling a coordinating committee meeting. Who would serve on that coordinating committee?
It would be me, representing the Park City Institute, our ECHLs manager would be there. And we get the opportunity for a couple of other staffers to be in there as well.
And do you have any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, sure. Just, I was on the board. I was the board liaison, and I just have to say, you know, I'm in full support of the arts and the programming. It was a great experience. So I don't know if the narrative has been sort of twisted a bit where, you know, we as a board aren't in support of the arts and all that PCI has done. I think it's really just nailing down and fine tuning this MOU. I did have a question, and I don't know, Mike, if you can help me answer it. I think it's the second point, the contact list of known potential ECHL users. Just curious about kind of what the end use of that is, the relevance of that, how that would benefit both parties? Can you elaborate on that a little, or?
Initially, we discussed the contact list. It was designed to promote transparency between the two sides of the aisle. Recognizing that that's not really completely fair to the other potential suitors that had that kind of insider information. I took out what was initially put in place as that list to be shared between the two sides and just left it in there as the Park City School District producing that list. So we will produce a list internally because we have to do it. Obviously, we're just not going to share that with Park City Institute. And it's not saying that anything against Park City Institute. It's just saying, hey, we need to keep this kind of level for all the players in the community and not stack the deck in the favor of Park City Institute in general. So that was the reason for it.
Okay, and then I think we're getting a scheduling tool, is that correct? So that there is transparency and visibility into who's using the venue and when. Is that also, it was kind of hard to follow in the MOU. Is that also something that we're purchasing, using?
Yes, we currently do have a tool. If you look on the community portion of the website, under the Echo Center, you can drill down on the calendar there. You can see what's available. That has that utility, which is just a Google calendar. We're hoping to move away from that to a more comprehensive solution for all facility scheduling. And I'd like to start piloting that this spring with the Echo scheduling, being the first launch customer for next year. So we've got one identified that's promising, and we'd like the Echo in the spring to be the first pilot of that software.
Okay, thanks. And then finally, having been on the board, and Ari, I can see you out there. Hello. There are 130 nonprofits in town, and as great as an experience it was, do we need to state that in the MOU? Or if one of the 5 of us as a citizen want to go sit on that board or any other board, do we need to state it, do you believe, in the MOU, or do you think that's something that we can do individually? Mike, somebody?
It could also be staff, right?
Or staff.
And there's a number of shared employees and potential staff seats for that, assuming that there's time. So I don't think that's implying it's a board member. I think it's implying that it's, before we didn't, for preceding 5 or 6 years, we didn't have a school board member on the PCI board. So I think that was a personal choice by you, and should someone want to have a personal choice to join a nonprofit board, it's currently seated. There's no issues with that.
Okay.
But I think this refers to staff or anyone.
Okay, that was all I had.
Yeah. All right, for me, I reiterate what Wendy said, which I think is that I would say I'm disappointed in the narrative and some of the tactics that have been used by PCI during this negotiation. PCI is not the only entity that is subject to a facilities use policy, and I think when you look at that versus the work that we've done with Vail, for example, both of them took a similar amount of time, and I think they were handled very differently. I think one of those groups in PCI tried to negotiate that publicly, and Vail was happy to do that. With our staff, which is the correct way to do that. I'd also say that I think there are some expectations that need to be met with regards to our shared staff. Having PCI tell our staff that we share with them that they're all going to be out of jobs and things like that, and fear mongering is certainly not helpful. Nor is it helpful to attack members of this board publicly and privately, while in good faith we're entering negotiations. And for those reasons, as well as the fact that there's been heavy board turnover at PCI, and there's an ongoing research, my personal view is that entering into a 5-year MOU is a bit aggressive. I'm certainly supportive of an MOU so that they continue to schedule 12 to 24 months out. Just as Wendy said, I support, everyone using the Eccles. It's a community facility. It's paid for by tax dollars, but part of the history is we spend about $150,000 a year as the district maintaining that building and staffing it. And our revenue from PCI in the past 5 years is considerably less than that. It's under $10,000. And so, in total, not per year. And so I think the community has the right to know that. I think the community also has the right to know that all the money that comes from Sundance stays at PCI, does not come into the school district. And so, when there's traffic issues around Sundance and things like that, I want people to understand that's not something the school district is doing. That's something that the PCI is arranging with them, and PCI also decides whether or not to share their tickets with our staff and our teachers, which, again, that's their choice. So, I mean, my personal view is that we look at a shorter term. I would be more comfortable with a year and see if the relationship improves between the entities. But, I'm in favor of the MOU in general. So, I mean, from my perspective, I would make a motion to make an amendment to shorten the term from ending in
December 31st, 2027.
December 21st, 2027 to ending December 31st, 2024. And allow the board to review it, again next year and see how the partnership's going. The revenue is going to change. It's going from 50 cents a ticket to $2 a ticket. Hopefully that helps offset the cost of running the facility. But that time will tell, right? And we'll also have to see who's the new ED and see if they can find someone to chair the board, because they've had a lot of resignations there. So that's my view. Is there a second on that amendment? If not,
You remain in effect through December 31st. What's the motion?
24.
So that's a year.
Year and a half.
Since
Or almost 2 years.
since we have representatives from PCI here, can we hear what the consequences of that would be for them?
This is the agreement that was negotiated with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure. Thank you, the opportunity to speak about this. Wendy, first I'd like to, thank you for your service on the board. The MOU, the new policy as it's designed, 1111, isn't intended to prohibit PCI from being able to present, but the effect is that it sort of does. What happens is right now, we're in the process.
Okay, sorry.
So we're in the process of planning the season. What we do is we are not able to sign agreements for any of those people we talked to about 50.
Okay.
So we're way down to 15.
Okay.
Then we'll meet with the school district in May, we'll get a set of dates.
Okay.
Then we go back to those people and we say, hey, do any of those dates work for you? Under the existing policy, we got to put a non-refundable deposit on any of those dates prior to knowing whether or not we can hold the show that day. So while, for Valley West, that's not the case. They know they can come in on a certain day, they can change their calendar around. Same thing for someone who wants to do a speaking event. If all of our acts are national touring acts, and for us to be able to fit those in, it's sort of difficult to do. So that's the purpose of the MOU. Without the MOU, effectively, we would not be able to program these nationally touring events. Some of them we could, like Nat Geo is pretty easy because there's 30 of them we can film. Secondly, it would be hard. It's hard for us without an MOU, knowing that we could possibly not, fit that schedule in and present. It's hard for us to do a couple of things. We would be able to have our annual fundraiser and ask for donations. It's hard for us to go out grants, which are now coming due. So the effect of not having some sort of agreement with the school district to be able to continue the programming that we've done for the past 25 years, we kind of stifled that. Having come back next year, we negotiate this, and we've been negotiating this for a year and a half now. Thank you, Michael Tanner, he's been great at doing this. It would mean that if we started now, we wouldn't be able to, hardly be able to do it. It's taken a lot of cycles from us and from the school district. So I would recommend that, you know, a 5-year, you know, agreement makes sense. It helps us out. Also, the majority of our board has not turned over. We've had one voting member resign. It was at the end of his period. And Anne was a liaison. She was not a voting member. She chose to leave for different reasons. So I think that narrative was exactly correct.
Appreciate the
Any
clarification.
more questions?
I don't have any. Anne, do you have any?
I do not.
Thank you.
I think my last point of discussion would be having, I mean, just talking to the elephant in the room, like the relationship and the narrative out there is not good. And there's got to be some sort of acknowledgement, I think, of how signing this and how we're moving forward. It's like reconnecting a relationship and not managing that maybe there was some moments of professional behavior at different points. And I think that we have no interest other than to serve our community. That's our only job. I can't, it doesn't matter whether I like what organizations I like or don't. I don't want to, I would be remiss to say that, well, this is what we do, let's go, we're ready to go, and everything's back to feeling good. I think my discomfort in this isn't about programming, it isn't about supporting an organization like PCI bringing in great programming. It isn't about stifling anyone, getting back at anyone personally. It's about, given how tense this coming to this and how difficult it was, we got to work together. We're putting staff in a position to work between two organizations that didn't maybe manage this process. Wasn't, and then again, not a personal at anybody, but the narrative out there is that there's two sides to, there's one group that doesn't want the PCI to succeed and have programming, there's the other that does. And I would just want to clarify, like, how we're going to manage this, because I would hate to put staff in the middle of this. It's like, you know, you get a divorce and the kids are stuck managing and picking up the pieces. And I don't think that is a fair thing. And I think we need to acknowledge that, even if it's owning some stuff and I don't know, being clear about this is beyond personal, this is beyond our.
Let's say a couple things that are
Yeah.
relevant. If this was another organization that didn't have a 25-year history with the community and with this building, I would guess that based on their actions, you know, over the past contract, it wouldn't be something we would renew or consider. Right. There's been dealings in bad faith. There's been a lack of payment. There's been huge outstanding receivables. There's been intimidation of potential renters. There's a lot of things that have happened that have not been in the community's best interest, right? There's been shutting out of the Nutcracker, you know, the ballet for the kids. There's things like that that, you know, if this was a subcontractor or something like that, I personally wouldn't ever vote to renew a contract with them. I think this is a different situation. There's a special relationship and there's history. But that's why I'm very hesitant to enter into a 5-year agreement. I'm all for going through another scheduling cycle and giving, you know, close to 2 years. It's February of 23, we say through the end of 24, and see how the next season programming and the relationship between the district goes. But, you know, these things are, their truths, you know, telling all the employees that we share that they're out of a job, which wouldn't be the case anyways, you know, intimidating potential renters, things like that. I think it comes down to a disagreement about whose facility this is, and that's cut and dry. The facility belongs to the taxpayers. It does not belong to Park City Institute. Even the negotiation that Michael did with, you know, with the institute was dictating terms and trying to do that. And again, this is a taxpayer funded facility. Anyone can use it. Yes, there was money raised 25 years ago. Yes, there's been a partnership for a very long time, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers as school board members and, you know, as a group. And so I think we have to look at this and keep an eye on it. And in my mind, it's a probationary period. But you know, that's my one. That's my one.
I think that from my perspective, the reality is it is a unique relationship for a host of reasons. And when you talk about it being a relationship, the reality is that in all relationships there are ups and downs, right? And it's totally reasonable to look at it and say there are things that have not been done as well as they could be. Right? I mean, I'm a big advocate in numerous senses of recognizing when things do not go the way they should and seeking to rectify that and acknowledge it. But I think that it's also reasonable to say, you know, there has to be good faith effort on both sides to make that relationship work if we value that relationship. And I think it's clear that if we cut this to a year and look to renew it in a year, we are creating significant difficulties for PCI. Now, I understand what you're saying, that it's probationary period, but I don't see any reason at all why we shouldn't do this, given that there is a provision, I think, that this can be terminated by either party, right? Isn't that in there? I think it's completely reasonable to say 5 years enables them to continue programming. It gives them what they need. It also gives us the revenue that we need to cover our costs from it. And there is still a provision, should something go wrong in that relationship, for that to be terminated with notice.
Well, I think it may cover, or it may cover our revenues, it may not, right? And that's another element that I think we have to look at, right? I mean, there's a difference between, you know, again, yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but there's a difference between, and it's not like for like because it's a for-profit organization versus a nonprofit. So the financials are different, right? But when you look at the revenue that we've gotten, right? And I guess, I guess what I'm trying to explain to you guys is I've seen this relationship for 6 years plus, and from the inside, and I've seen how this organization's acted. I've seen how the financials have gone. I've seen the lack of revenue, the lack of partnership, and I think you're exactly right. If we take a snapshot of this today and you say, yeah, could things have been done differently? Absolutely, right? I just have no reason to believe as a fiduciary of tax dollars that things are going to change, right? And it's kind of one of those things where from my seat, fool me once, shame on me, you know, but I don't believe that things are going to change, and I'd love to be proven wrong, in which case I'm fine signing a 5-year in a year's time, right? Or in a year and a half's time. I just think that I question whether it's going to change, and it's a shame, you know, but that's where I'm at. I've seen it. It's not just this group of people, it's the preceding ones as well. And it's disappointing, you know, so that's my view.
Hey, Andrew, I got a question. Andrew, is there any provision that could be put in under PCI agrees to that would sort of touch on what you're talking about? So it would still give them the ability to fundraise and write grants and plan programming and, you know, stay healthy and afloat, and put something in there that protects us in the way that you're sort of describing, so we can sort of do two at the same time, both at the same time? Like on that last page, PCI agrees to, is there anything to add in there? that you feel would cover us?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a section in here that not sublease schedule, but unconfirmed dates, so that solves one of the issues. I think, the new schedule of costs, of the money that's coming in. That should help one of the other issues. I mean, I think the MOU again is well done. I think it's well done and it's, it works. I just think this is kind of, it's been a number of years of pretty poor behavior and, that's my view. I have one vote, you guys have 4, so happy to. I mean, I guess right now we have a motion on the table to amend it to 2 years. We vote on that, and then we can vote on the whole thing.
And we hear from you had mentioned right when I started talking, I can say something to that.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure.
You're right, and I'll admit that 3 years ago, before I took the helm at the Institute, pretty much everything that Andrew said happened. There were attempts by the previous executive director to block people. There was some financial, I'm not going to say that the finances were done right, but the previous ED was not a financial expert and didn't have any business acumen to support it. So when I came in, there was a mess. But in the last 3 years, I would challenge a narrative and say that we improved the financial position substantially. The balance sheet is clean. We paid all our bills on time, regardless if they're in the school district or anyone else. I've had personal conversations with everyone who wants to rent there, including Valley West.
And those are his words. And he said that to a number of us. That's scary for us, right? Especially when we're managing a taxpayer funded facility and we're not receiving any revenue.
But our 990s are public, everything, and we share our financials.
What I'm saying is when the chairman of your board of directors comes to the superintendent, comes to multiple board members, and asks us to be involved and help take over the institute, or says, hey, I have significant concerns about the financials. I haven't seen the financials, but to me, that causes pause as a fiduciary, right? And that's, I'm not saying that you haven't cleaned things up. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, within the past few years, those conversations have taken place, and that's extraordinarily scary for us, right? Especially when we're subsidizing that by not receiving any revenue. So this is changing, right? And I think this agreement goes a long way, changing the history and setting things right. But that's why I'm saying I would feel a lot more comfortable giving this a little bit of time and getting another year under our belt, giving you the 2 years ahead to schedule everything, and then saying, okay, great, everything went as you guys promised, everything went as we promised, we'll move on and we start again, right? But that's where I'm coming from. And that may have predated you, but that's a scary thing to hear.
Well,
From a board chair.
true. I will tell you, 3 years ago, true, but I've been the chairman of the board for the last 3 years. And none of that's occurred within that time period. And we have shared all of our financials every year, including this past year, with the Park City School District. And so you're welcome to have, and that makes it.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we need to do too is just say, okay, it's, goes through 24 with an automatic review unless the board decides otherwise. So I think it's, you guys have to understand there's some hair on this one,
I hear what you're saying. For me, if we are looking at the MOU and saying it's a good MOU, it does exactly what we need it to do. We are protected. It says in here that, each party accepts full responsibility. Any material breach of the terms will render it null and void. I mean, it seems to me we are protected by this, and it can be 5 years and we're still protected, right? And so to make it 2 years, while I understand your point, it just seems unnecessary. Looking at this, I mean, it doesn't. I hear what you're saying, and it is obviously important that we protect the taxpayer dollars that we are elected to protect. But I think this does that. So I personally do not see a need to shorten this. I think we can act as good partners on our side as well, then say we acknowledge things have changed in the last 3 years.
Exactly.
We have an agreement that we think protects us moving forward, and we can continue to review it. And if there's a material breach of this, we give them notice and it's aware.
Is the one thing that has happened in the past few years is the, holding the scheduling over outside organizations, right? So going to, and there's two sides of every story, right? But if you talk to Valley West, if you talk to people at the Song Summit, they say they've been shaken down, right? And so I think there is, and being told, okay, you can't hold the Nutcracker during Christmas because we're holding that date, things like that. That is, that's what we're dealing with here. So, I mean, just so we're all out there and it's in public and we're discussing this, that's what's happening. So totally hear you. And I think we'll bring it to a vote and we'll decide, right? Unless there's any more conversation.
Well, Andrew, I just want to say one more thing. Is there any other creative way to get protection in the MOU? Or do you feel like it's in there? It isn't in there.
We can terminate
it doesn't do that.
for 30 days. So it's just a matter of whether the administration believes they're in violation or they act in bad faith, and then they can terminate it. Right.
Right. Because if we
that reverts back to the facility usage policy, which is still outside the program.
Material breach of the terms.
So something that changed in this particular version of the MOU with Ari and Mike working together is that the dates are scheduled in the order that they've always been scheduled, right? Sundance is blocked no matter what, even before school events, Sundance is blocked, right? That happens. Then the school events fill in. Then PCI filled in. We have a certain number of people that we know historically have liked to use the space. Eight groups, right? A church does one thing, a ballet school does one thing, right? 8 things. We held those. Then PCI comes in, they book the dates they might like, they look at the pattern of that, but if they have not booked them, by a certain date, I think it's August 31st, if I'm not mistaken, then the calendar clears again. So that we have the opportunity for other groups who may be in the area or who may be looking for something to have these dates, or even PCI, if something else comes in, they can then book. So we have this flexibility that we didn't necessarily have before with this particular MOU. So we think that is a feature that we think will help. We've not tried that before, right? So that's a new aspect we're trying. So we can, report on how that's worked out and if we needed it or not.
So you said another option could be, what, Andrew, that we just book in a conversation and 2 years.
Or we have a 2-year contract with a renewal. I mean, that's the other way to do it, but.
The other is to ask PCI to come in annually. We've done that before where PCI has presented a really nice little video clip of the student engagement or just given us a little summary of what's happened. So that way you're not waiting for 2 years to start negotiating.
I mean, but yeah.
Have that provision.
Ari, do you have a projection on what the increased revenue will be from the ticket?
I don't have it offhand,
Okay.
but I did share it with Mike Tanner, and I believe Andrew did review it, so. But it's beyond just 4 times, because the old agreement had the 50% usage fee only on full price sold tickets. The new MOU, that $2 facility use fee is on every ticket sold, so that includes teacher tickets, 2-for-1, student tickets, senior tickets, everybody, first responders, anyone who who in the past got a discount, they're gonna pay that $2 facility use fee, so the revenue is gonna be substantially higher.
So would we need to make a motion to amend to include a yearly? Do we want to put that in here?
Yep.
No, I mean, a yearly presentation to the board.
Yeah, I know they would like.
I mean, would you like
Love that.
with that?
Okay, so, yeah. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the MOU to include a provision that PCI will present yearly to the board, annually, the board, an update on programming, finances. Okay.
Second, okay. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
I,
Okay. All right, so now we'll just, on the amended motion, we'll have a vote unless there's any more discussion. All those in favor of passing the MOU as amended, please say aye.
Including that amendment?
Yeah, so the MOU
With
has
this
been
amendment.
with the amendment.
I just learned.
So the MOU
Yeah.
with a
Aye.
yearly
Yes.
report to the board.
wait,
Andy, are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm following. So we're voting on the MOU with the amendment that we just spoke about. Is that what you just said?
Yes,
Okay, did anybody vote yet? Because I can't hear you.
we all said, three of us.
Then I'm saying aye, sorry. Yes, aye.
Okay. Perfect.
This is
I'm
not,
gonna vote opposed to that, but it passes 4-1, so that MOU is in place. Next up, we have the 3-year school calendar review, so we've just gone over. The
Andrew, can I
23-24.
interrupt you for a minute? I have to leave. I gotta get to school
Yeah.
for the concert.
All
Okay,
good. Enjoy
bye
the
guys.
concert.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Bye.
So we just did 23-24. These are the following 3 years.
Next to them. Fine.
No,
you're
it's
right.
3,
5, 6, 7.
You're right.
yeah, so this will give us
These are just the major dates.
4 years out for the calendar, which would be awesome because then everyone knows what's up.
So these are essentially days off, vacations.
Yes, it's the parameter of the calendar. So the current rule in Utah is our educators have 180-day contract, so they have 174 days of student instruction, 4 days of professional learning, and 2 days of conferences. So if the state were to change any of those provisions, obviously we have to adjust to that, yeah, right, or not. So there were 174, 5, 6, 79, yeah, 79. Yeah. 180 days.
So these dates, something like fall recess does not count in that 180 days. They're the days off school. So again, your calendar can constrict or expand depending on how many holidays you locally decide to want to have a day off school. In the past, we've had it very constricted because people like to get out early. They like to start as late as possible, get early, they get out as early as possible. But fall recess, we did try a 1 day. People prefer the 2 days just because of college trips, college visits and things like that. It's kind of been a tradition, I think, in the state. Thanksgiving has the 2 days off, but our teachers actually do a comp day because the way they do their conferences is they are providing 16 hours of parent teacher conferences outside of the workday to be able to meet parents in the evenings. So then their comp day is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and then the first day of spring break. So those again are not counting against the 180 days. Makes sense? Any other questions? I know sometimes we do have Yom Kippur. We do not have it here 24-25 because it's on Saturday.
Got it. Okay. So that makes sense. And this next year it's also on.
Next, it's a day. It's a day. But this does not dramatically change the practical pattern.
So when Yom Kippur falls on a weekend, is there a less day somewhere else in the year?
Yeah,
Because we don't have to
it
take
starts
all the
later,
day.
yeah,
Got it. The day later.
yeah.
Okay.
What about, one idea? I was thinking of was maybe building in a day or two at the end for snow days. Like, we've never done that before, but we never had snow days here either. Like in 20 years, you didn't have any snow days, and then we had 2 in the last 3 years, I think.
I do wonder.
And the only reason I bring that up as a suggestion is for PCEA.
Mhm.
You know, if they want more flexibility, like as more of our teachers, as we get the reality, more of our teachers live further away.
Mhm.
Then if we have flexibility built into our schedule for a snow day, then it's easier for us to call it, right, or 2 days. And that's something like, I know that they do that in other areas where snow days are more common.
And then we're not so panicked on that morning thinking, oh, how are we gonna make this up?
Yeah, so
That doesn't
Friday.
become part of the decision.
If it's a Friday,
I like that.
we can
I
do,
like that.
we just cancel it as opposed to
I like that.
worrying about the late start or something.
Yeah.
I mean, once we build it in, we'll probably never use it. Right?
But it's better to have it and not need it.
Yeah.
It's need it and not have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe put it at the end of the year, maybe put it at the end of the year, or something, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Give everybody a little breathing room on decision making.
We could do that. So what that means then is basically communicating to the public 2 days later, which sometimes takes into the next week. And then removing the days later in the year once we know we're not gonna need them. You know, and shortening it, but it will.
We would know in probably
by
late April,
Yeah.
yeah, we would know that we're not doing it, and so then we can shorten the last day of school.
Yeah.
Keep graduation the same or whatever, but. Maybe we talk to PCEA, see if they're into that. Cause they're really the other
Well, yeah,
stakeholder, right?
and they're the ones worried in the morning. Yeah. It's most impactful.
And
That's
we
a
do have
great
the
idea.
ability on Mondays through Thursdays to do a 1 hour or 2 hours a day. Because they don't do that. Except for Friday.
Yeah.
it wouldn't be.
Okay. So is that something we
Do we
could
wanna
do
come back
over the
to this?
next, then we could come back to this in March?
Yeah.
Maybe we make.
Got the dates, any
Yeah.
other investments that you're interested in. February, that's. Got it, Lori, Mariani.
Go with that.
I know that the PCEA does appreciate, I know what we're doing this year, that if we do have an emergency day before the March PD day, that we use it, make it an instructional day, because most people aren't necessarily traveling. Right.
It's a discussion, it's a discussion, yeah.
Bring Max, with at the end of each year.
Perfect. Great. Okay.
Okay, last discussion item is school fees. Randy, do you wanna?
Yeah, so the requirement is we have school fees adopted by April, and so this is the first reading for school fees. The fees you see are pretty minimal. Some of them are just being split out, a few of them are being raised $5. The majority of the changes probably in the activities of the high school. I will note one thing, on the extracurricular side of the high school, we have volleyball listed. It doesn't specify boys or girls, as you guys know, that the Utah High School Activities Association approved boys volleyball starting next year. I know that the decision hasn't been made, but we're including on the schedule here, just saying that one fee covers boys and girls, just in case something happens for next year's school prepare. So, which to me the requirements of fees. So that's before you, it's first reading. Next month, you'll expect to see spend plans for each one of these fees and how those organizations plan to spend the dollars, which is a requirement of the school fee process. We'll be looking for final approval next month. So happy to entertain any questions you guys may have. So.
Cool. All right, let's go to public comment and then we will do the policies for now.
Yeah.
This point right now. Okay, we have 6 comments. Looks like most of them are on PCI and MOU. First up is Kirsten Colway. Apologies.
Hi, I want to thank you for going for the 5-year MOU. I have been in this a taxpayer in this district for over 30 years. My kids went to this school and I was kind of disappointed you didn't mention the student outreach program more because it had a huge impact on my children. My children were on the upper end and of the academic scale, and they needed that music program, and Arctic did a fabulous job. And my son was going to give it all up when it was getting towards graduation, and they brought in a composer that talked to the bands, and he said, "Oh, it's possible to integrate it into your life." And now he's an engineer and a composer. And that's because of this outreach program. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Insa, please join us.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Insa Bateman, I'm a taxpayer. You're doing all you do with my little bit of tax money, I'm sure. I have lived here for 23 years and 18 of which I ruled a nonprofit, DBA Recycle Utah. As you know, our tax records of nonprofits, 501c3s are available to anyone at any time. And if they're not on the website, you can walk in there and get a hard copy. And as you also know, art matters. It matters greatly to me, especially since I have found out that art is important, music is important, dancing is important to watch and to do when you have certain illnesses. And I happen to have one of those. My brain doesn't function very well anymore, but music helps. My son went to school here and he was playing the violin when it was pretty bad, but then he switched to the cello. And yes, the teacher asked him to continue the cello, not the violin. Above all, I appreciate your conversation on the matter of Park City Institute. It is important that we hear your voice. And there used to be a time when we heard your voice on PCSD every week. I don't know what happened to that. I'd love to hear your voice again. And I think it's important because then this bad voodoo that you were talking about might not have happened. Thank you.
Thanks. Stacy Sanders.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak for a moment. I am the Student Engagement with Park City Institute, and I too want to thank you for that, saying I know you. And I want to share with you the good things that are happening real quickly. The student engagement has gone through the roof in the last couple of years. I've worked really hard to establish good relationships with the teachers and the administration. And I think we're getting stronger and stronger. So this year, for example, I've had like 5 or 6 different student engagements. One of them with RDT out of Salt Lake. They did 5 just themselves. They did a history of dance with the whole Treasure Mountain school. They did an outreach with Trailside. Never seen something so cute as the entire school dancing with RDT, completely engaged. The feedback we got from it was outstanding. They also did something with the senior center, and so it goes on and on. There's like I said, the feedback has been great, and I really want to work hard with the school system, with the board to maintain that. And as far as the financial piece, I just wanted to put it out there that these artists with the student outreaches are being paid. So they're getting a check. So recently Hub New Music did a student engagement with Eva Marvel's chamber class, and they were paid $1,200. So there is money coming in that way to support the school system. The students are never charged, the schools are never charged. So I'd love to see this continue, and I want to thank you for taking your time for this. Thank you.
Ari's gone, right? Okay, Mary Nan.
Hello. So I had a longstanding relationship with Park City Institute, and for about 5 years, I was their marketing and PR person. And for the entire time, the 22 and counting years that I've lived at Park City Institute has been a tremendous part of my family's experience. And a point of pride when I get to talk about the cool things that we get to witness, that we get to partake in, and most importantly, that my children have gotten to experience because of the work at Park City Institute and the people who came before them in even getting the Eccles Center created. The community effort that happened with the bond and with the private fundraising is significant and meaningful, and it doesn't happen everywhere. And the fact that we have that, and I've been in places where somebody has said, oh, I wish you had been here last week when I was at my synagogue on the Upper East Side, and Maureen Dowd and Carl Hulse had this great talk, and I said, they're coming to the Eccles Center this week. So I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And that's not something that happens in small towns ordinarily. So it's very exciting when you get to have these ideas come into our town and impact us and our kids. And the other thing is that I have 2 children who are involved in performing arts and you know, in different ways. And I went to see the 2410 production in the Black Box this weekend. Instead of going to the PCI event, because I wanted to see what the kids were up to, and my son's friends were all in it. And without the kind of resources that we have with the Eccles Center and with the Black Box, the kinds of productions that the kids are able to do. This 2410 is a production that happens where they write 10 plays in 24 hours, write, produce, direct, act, memorize their lines, or read them from under the tambourine, whatever. It was so impressive, and so much of it has to do that our children are learning in a professional setting. And so I really appreciate the time and the energy that all of you have invested in making this agreement happen, because it's really meaningful to so many students. And my personal experience is one thing, but when I have seen the impacts that we've been able to have with all the different kinds of student outreach that I've been witness to, and when my kids come home and say, filmmaker in the classroom, oh my gosh, we got to see a Sundance movie, it's a big deal. So that's my one thing I wanted to comment on. The other thing briefly is I wanted to just ask as you consider the calendar on the years that there is the Yom Kippur falls on the weekend. If you would consider the first day of Rosh Hashanah as the sort of substitute holiday. So it would be meaningful to many people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon.
All right, Shannon Hollowell-Schiller, for those of you who are new to the board. I'm speaking today on the SHARP assessment, student health and risk prevention. So I'm encouraged that I'm actually starting to see some emails coming through and that we're actually pushing out some awareness. I believe it comes from a culture of top down. So if you're not going to promote, educate, and support this survey being done, which is, in conjunction with Summit County and the state of Utah, you're not going to put it out there if you're not going to support it, if you're not going to tell the kids it's important to participate. So I'm going to ask you, please participate. So it's for 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students. And so yes, technically you're doing the same cohort every 2 years, but it's important for us to gather that information on the risks of their drug use, alcohol use, depression, things like that are going on. And the data that is generated from that is going to assist with doing what kind of education. It gets grant money. So I just want to put that awareness out there. It is critical for me that this community not forget 2 13-year-olds that were lost in 2016. So we need to generate the data, and it comes from parents telling their kids it's important to do it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have 10 policies for posting. So I'll entertain a motion to post the following policies. Policy 71.5, 70.20, or sorry, 70.15 employee and drug-free workplace, 70.20 employee drug testing, 70.25 personnel records, 70.35 scope of employment and users as weapons, 70.45 benefit status during unpaid leave of absence, policy 70.50 admin sabbatical leave, policy 70.57 legal defense of employees notice of suit or threat of suit, 71.15 employees reference and letters of recommendation, 71.71 public education employees reporting of arrests and convictions, and policy 11.025 public complaints.
Yeah, I make a motion to post policy as stated.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion on these 10 policies?
So what happens now is they're posted for 20 days for public comment. We hear from PCEA or PCEA EIT. If they have any feedback for us, we offer that feedback to you in the meeting next month in case we want to make any amendments. But these are basically, these come up on, we're really trying to be on a 5-year cycle. So really, thank you, Dr. Sorensen, for making sure we're up to date and making sure the legal references are updated and all those sorts of things. And then by policy, every policy goes through a legal review. So, John reviews all of them, make sure they're compliant and we haven't missed anything, and then for the races.
And
Thank you.
the 70.45 is different than the maternity paternity policy, right? All right. Okay. Any other questions or discussions on these 10? All right. All those in favor of posting these 10 policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's 4 unanimous. Now we have one policy for adoption, policy 10036 grade replacement. That policy has been posted for 20 days and is now before the board for adoption. I'll entertain a motion to approve policy 10036 as is listed in the ordinance.
I make a motion to post policy as stated. No, to adopt.
Yeah. The second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or questions around this policy? Okay, all those in favor of adopting policy 10036, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is adopted. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn to our next meeting, which is a special session at 10 a.m. on
March 14th.
March 4th.
Tuesday. Isn't it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, March 14th.
Tuesday, March 14th at 10 a.m.
I make the motion to adjourn until our next special session on Tuesday, March 14th at 10 a.m.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.